Hi there, this is Jeanette. Thanks for joining me today. I have a new video for Whimsy Stamps to share with you today, and it features a couple of their newly released June products as well as an older product. And so you can see that I created an aperture card here. There's tons of interest on the card and layers and textures, and I'm going to take you through sort of the thought process I went through before I created the card. So I always start with the stamp set that I want to use. So here's the clear stamp set. You can see there are a lot of sentiments. There's like 4 sentiments there. I wasn't sure at the beginning which one I was going to use. I thought it was either going to be Let's Be Mermaids or Ocean Child. I wasn't sure. But I did know that I was going to try to use as many of the image stamps as possible. I also knew that I wanted to use this stencil. This is the Mermaid Scale stencil, and I thought it'd be really nice to create a sort of ombre background using the stencil. So I did pull out sort of my favorite inks to do water, so Tumbled Glass, Mermaid Lagoon, Blueprint Sketch, and Cracked Pistachio. So I've already pulled those out because I know that I'll be using those to create the backgrounds. I did cut already 2 pieces of Bristol Strathmore paper to measure 4 by 5 1/4. Now I'm using this paper because I like the way the Distress ink blends on it. It's much easier to blend. It sort of helps you do the blending. I know that's a strange thing to say, but it really blends beautifully. And I thought I would create 2 layers. So you saw the finished product. So you know that I have a top layer that has that stencil on it. And then the bottom layer is sort of recessed. I used the Whimsy oval dies to create that sort of window. And so it's going to be a layered card, but it's not going to be too high. You're still going to be able to put it in a standard envelope. So I'm going to show you the die. So this is the second largest die, and I'm going to position it a little higher. So this is what I'm thinking. I'll position it a little higher so that I can use this envelope edge die on the bottom to create a sort of different edge, sort of an unexpected detail to the card. So this is the one I chose. So I'm going to line that up like that, and I'm just trying it out to see if it's actually going to look nice. Sometimes you think you're going to be using all these dies and all these stencils and they're all going to go together, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I always sort of like to addition everything together before I actually sort of start. And I will take the stamps that I'm using, so the mermaid stamp, I'm going to lay it there just to sort of get an idea of how it's going to look. This is the shells. It actually comes as one large stamp, all the shells together. Then I pulled out the seaweed, kind of get an idea if it's all going to fit. Because if it hadn't fit, I would have tried to move maybe to the larger die and maybe not put the envelope die on the bottom. So these are all things I try to look at before I actually start making the card. And also I wanted to make sure that that sentiment was going to fit in. So you can see that it all fits really nicely, so I was pretty happy with how that all was looking. And so now we're going to get down to creating the background. So I'm starting off with my lighter color, which is the Tumbled Glass. I am working on the matte that from Tonic, the white matte from Tonic. I think it's the same one that comes with the Glass Media matte, except it's just a little bit larger. I like using that when I'm doing my sponging and my blending because it just sort of helps the whole process. So I moved on to Cracked Pistachio. Now I'm putting on my Blueprint Sketch. I am changing the little sponge in between the colors. I don't have enough of these sort of little blenders for every color of ink I have, so I do keep a little box that has all the spare sponges so I can just sort of switch them out. The last color I'm using is the Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm holding that little piece of paper underneath my fingers so I don't make little fingerprint marks on the blending. Now I'm taking my distress sprayer. I'm going to spritz the whole surface with water, wait a few seconds, and then dab it off, and you can see it removes some of the ink and sort of gives you that beautiful ocean look. Now I'm going to take the Mermaid scale stencil. I secured it to the mat with a little bit of post-it tape, like on the bottom of the paper so it doesn't move, and then I secured the stencil onto the mat. That way I can be sure that it's not going to shift around and move, because you really want it to stay in place when you're doing this. I'm using the same inks as before in the exact same order, except I am adding a little bit of the Mermaid Lagoon. I'm adding a little bit more of that. You can see I'm sort of covering the bottom and moving almost all the way up to 3/4 of the way up. And you can see I have that sort of ombre effect with the mermaid scales. I'm going to line up the dies now, make sure that everything is sort of centered, secure it with some post-it tape. I'm going to retry that. It sort of shifted around, and then I'll just run it through my Big Shot. And you can see now I have the top portion of my card. These are the Copic marker colors I used to color the mermaid and the shells. So you'll have them all listed here. They're basically listed in categories: skin, hair, the tail. So you can use those if you need to sort of refer to them. Now I just showed you that I stamped the sentiment with Blueprint Sketch ink. Now I'm just going to mask off a little bit of the top portion of the card so that I can stamp the seaweed. I want it in some places to sort of look like it's coming from beneath. I could have done this before putting the top on. I just find it easier to gauge where I want all the images to be stamped if I actually have the top portion on. I'm going to stamp the little fish, the school of fish. I think this is such a cute accessory stamp. I love it. I'm sure I'm going to be using it for many projects. Just so cute. For the mermaid, I'm putting a little bit of foam tape on the portion of her that's going to be sitting within the aperture, because it is a little bit raised, and then the rest of the image is going to be covered in the Nouveau glue. I'll be able to place her where I want. And that's my card completed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my card making process, as well as seeing how I created the background. For more links to the products, you can check out my description box on YouTube or my blog. Thanks for watching.